Of course, storage and desks will change over time. And one of the major changes that we're going to see is during the Baroque, we're going to see people moving a lot less, which means we don't see the use of chests so much as larger pieces that are intended for easier access and better storage. Now, the court cupboard is still going to be a very common piece. Now, oftentimes, the top of these will have a series of doors that will open. Sometimes there are drawers and open areas at the top. And let me remind you, the court cupboard is simply a small cupboard. Below, we often have, again, a set of doors, and sometimes we will again have drawers inside. Sometimes they are shown outside. Now, commonly during this period, the court cupboards will have cornices that start to get more elaborate and start expanding beyond the size of the base. So you see these are actually enlarged cornices developing here. But many of these pieces will be replaced by cabinets. Once again, storage is still an issue, but we don't need to move things around quite so often. Now, the cabinet replaces the buffet as a display piece and was the most important piece of furniture in any given home. Unlike the buffet, which was fairly plain, the cabinet was a showpiece, generally employing luxury materials and techniques. With numerous drawers and compartments that were individually decorated and separated by various architectural details. And these would contain any number of things, from flatware to general household goods. Usually the center would open as well, with a series of small pigeonholes or small drawers, allowing for greater subdivision. The legs of these cabinets tend to be very ornate and very decorated. Here we see this almost Solomaic column beneath these large ball decorations for the cabinet. And we have the large X stretcher. Of course, these fine legs can't stand on their own, so they require that stretcher to kind of hold everything together. But instead of a chest, we will now have the commode, which is a direct outgrowth of the chest. Now, the Italians had developed the chest to the point where there were actually two lids, an inner and outer lid. The outer lid was left open because frequently it was painted on the inside, and then the inner lid was used to cover the contents. Through time, those ideas will develop into the commode, which will eventually develop into something more similar to the dresser that we see today. During the Baroque period, these tend to be something that has two drawers. It tends to be fairly straightforward in terms of overall form. For example, here we just have a cabinet with two drawers in it. Although we can see very elaborate decorations with stone tops and all kinds of metal applique and other decorative elements applied to them. From Italy, we will see the stipo a bambocci, stipo a bambocci. And this is named after the putti that are generally used to decorate it. This is basically a cabinet with a writing top that folds down. This would lock when not in use. That folds down onto a couple of supports, as you see here, that hold it in place, allowing it to be used both as a desk, but also as a cabinet in general storage. Remember, writing is becoming a more and more popular pastime. Now, with the development of the post office and the development of postal services, people are writing letters, people are writing journals and other things, so desks become a more and more popular element. And we're going to be looking at three of them. First, we see the bureau plat. And this is a very simple writing desk. We see three drawers set up along the apron in the desk. And we have a very clean, flat top. Now, this would be very effective today. In fact, apart from the decorative form, the overall form, simply a tabletop on legs, is exactly what tends to be in style today when it comes to desks, compared to what might have been in style in the late 90s, things with giant enclosed hutch tops and such. But of course, things will develop and people need a little more storage. So we see the bureau gradin. And here we see the addition of pigeonholes and storage on top of the writing surface. But you'll notice there's nothing blocking the base. So this is basically a table, in this case, a couple of lower drawers, as well as a central lap drawer across. There's nothing blocking the desk. So this isn't a knee hole. This is more of a writing desk sort of setup. We will also see the bureau toilette, which is not a desk. It's actually basically a vanity. And this is where you would store all of your personal goods that are necessary to make you up for the day. Your hair care products, your makeup, whatever it happens to be. And by the way, both men and women would have had these. The use of makeup and things like powdered wigs and that sort of thing are really, really common throughout this period, all the way through into the 19th century. It's only very recently that men typically don't wear makeup, or at least don't admit to it. Whereas earlier times, people were much more open to that, especially amongst the aristocracy, where looks are everything. So the idea here is subdivided so that you could keep all of these little elements, because think of your bathroom and all the toiletries that are in there. Of course, there's a lot of things, and so you want to subdivide that. In some of these, the centerpiece actually opens and would reveal a mirror. And then this desk piece would fold down, but instead of a writing surface, it was intended as an opening desk that would allow you to lay out your makeup or whatever else so that you can prepare for the day. Now, the bureau mazarin is very similar to one of the desks we looked at before. We have that storage on top. The difference is we have a knee hole now. So they've blocked off the back of the desk so that you can't look at someone's knees underneath it. Sometimes you will see bookshelves in here as well as additional storage. In this case, a very decorative example, but a Baroque desk nonetheless. And you typically see a lot of inlay and other things in desks. The reason is, of course, you have to be in a certain socioeconomic group to afford to have a desk or to have any use for it. If you're in the working class, you're probably not writing a lot, and you can make use of any old table you have. Whereas if you're a business owner, you're probably in the upper middle class, you're going to want to buy a desk that's going to act as status symbol, which this one definitely does. And it has that Asian element to it. You'll notice the Japanning sort of effect that we have on it with the black background and then the light decorations, in this case, ivory inlay, that have been laid into the surface.